And thank you guys. That was fun. So, last week, in honor of Labor Day, we talked about the importance of loving our work as a spiritual practice. And I know some people are like, I don't love my work. I understand that. That's what the talk was about, loving your work as a spiritual practice. We talked about seeing our work not just as a means of getting a paycheck or a means of getting by, but as a way to allow us to more fully express the divine within us. Because if we're doing our job just as a way of getting by, or just to earn a paycheck, or even worse, if we're going to work every day with a sense of anger or resentment, I know that's nobody here, but you know, some people don't dig their jobs, okay? But when we're coming from a place like that, we are blocking the universal flow of good that is everywhere around us, always wanting to be known, always wanting to be expressed. But if we are living our life in that sense of resentment or just getting by, we are blocking it from coming into our lives. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because it cannot flow easily when there are those pockets of anger and resentment, or even just contraction, like I'm just going to go and do I'm just going to go and do my job. It can't get through. It can't be expressed. But when we're doing our work, believe me, I'm going to get to spirit at play, don't worry. But when we're doing our work, and we're doing it from a place of love, and a place of giving, and a place of open-heartedness, we are making room for that abundance, that universal abundance of good to just flow through. So everybody just go like this. You know what I'm talking about? So we spent last week looking at our jobs as a spiritual practice, a way of honoring the divine by loving what we do. And part of last week's talk, I shared several tools with you about how to go about loving our work. And one of those tools was not being a workaholic. Okay, everybody close your eyes for a second and raise your hand if you're a workaholic. Everybody's eyes are open, so you're all like, oh you. Okay, yeah. Just because we work 16 hours a day does not mean that we love our work. But it does mean that we are not living our life in balance. And balance is one of the laws of the universe. Think yin-yang, light, dark, day, night, snow, not snow. Work, play. Y'all know that old phrase, right? All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And we do not want to be that. So today, we're going to talk about one of my personal favorite topics in the world, and that is the spiritual practice of play. Can I get a yeehaw for that? Now let me tell you why it's so important that if we talked about work last week, for us to talk about play this week, is because so many of us take ourselves and our spirituality so seriously. Especially at the beginning. You know, when you first come into a teaching like this and you hear about all these possibilities and you're so excited and you don't want to screw anything up, so you get super serious. Let me give you an example. We teach a thing called spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of prayer, in our Science of Mind 101 classes. It's affirmative prayer. And it's got 5 steps, and it's very, very well laid out. But what I've seen people, they could be being total whatever, in class, right? But when it gets time to pray, right, they do this. I know that there is only one God. That God God is in me, through me, and around me. I'm not going to continue. You get the idea. Okay. Now, they're thinking it's all Zen and all spiritual, right? You know what I'm talking about. But in reality, it's kind of stilted, right? It's forced. It isn't natural. It isn't particularly expressive, and it certainly isn't fun. And as I talk about all the time, we are here to express God. God is experiencing life through us and as us, so it is incumbent upon us to let Spirit play by means of us, sometimes, because Spirit loves to play. Kittens. I love this quote by Lucia Cappuccioni. Play keeps us vital and alive. It gives us enthusiasm for life that is irreplaceable. Without it, life just doesn't taste good. Right? So if you know me, and you guys are getting to know me here, you know that this topic is near and dear to my heart. After all, I wrote a book called Giving God a Good Time. Oh yes, and we happen to have a few in the lobby. But I did write a book called Giving God a Good Time because I am a believer in play. I have always believed and known at the bottom of my heart that I am more creative, that I'm more expressive, I am in general happier when I give myself permission to play. One of my favorite all-time Ernest Holmes quote, and we have a few new people. Ernest Holmes is the founder of our teaching, and he wrote this: anything that will enable us to express greater life, greater happiness, greater power, so long as it does not harm anyone, must be the will of God for us. As much life as one can conceive will become part of his experience. I remember when I was first in this teaching and first studying and probably praying, like how I just demonstrated to you, and I read this: anything that will enable us to express greater life, greater happiness, so long as it doesn't harm anyone, must be the will of God. I remember calling my mother and saying, I've been doing it right all these years. Right? Now this does not mean, folks, that we should spend all of our time playing, any more than we should spend all of our time working. It means that to have a fully expressed life, we need to allow ourselves to do both. To work and love what we do when work is appropriate, and to play, whatever that means to you, when play is appropriate. The challenge is that some of us have forgotten how to play, right? We think that playing means that we're being irresponsible, or that we're going to act silly, or we're going to seem like we're being foolish, right? And you know, the truth is, if you're playing full out, you might. You might look foolish, right? You might be irresponsible for a moment. You may look foolish. But what it really means to me is that we are allowing our inner child, and each of us has it. Each of us has an inner child, letting it out to have fun without worrying about what other people think or what other people what you might end up looking like. Because the master teacher, Jesus, taught us, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. If you watch kids play, even our wonderful kids that dance up here in the front, right? They don't care what other people think. Sometimes they look really dopey. Sometimes they look really foolish and they act silly. But what they are also doing is laughing, they're joking, they're breathing. They're moving. They're having fun. Their imaginations are engaged. They are playing with enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is one of the most vital of the spiritual practices that we have. It is the highest aspect of spirituality we know of. I'm a wordsmith, right? I like to look up where words come from. Enthusiasm, en, meaning in. Enthuse has its root in theos, which means God or spirit. So when we are enthusiastic, we are expressing the spirit within. Did you know that? I love it. So when we are allowing ourselves to play, to express joy and happiness, we are expressing the God within. So let me give you an example. I moved into a townhouse in Beddington it's been about 6 months. I finally put pictures on the wall. So, after 6 months, I was like, I guess maybe I better live here, right? Anyway, it's got this great field. Now, I also showed that because it's a pretty sunset. But this is my deck right here, and there's this great big giant field that's in back of it. And I call it my big giant backyard that I don't have to mow, because it's right off my deck, right? During the summer, the field is used for kids' soccer games, and I would sit out on my deck and I would watch these kids, and they're having fun, they're being enthusiastic, and they're just having a really great time. However, this is what I really wanted to tell you about. The kids were gone, whatever, and there's a group of about 6 or 7 adult guys came onto the empty field with a ginormous ball that looked a lot like this, except it was pink. Now these are adult males, I want you to understand. And first they're kind of self-conscious, and they're just kind of like rolling it, or maybe kicking it a little bit. They're worried about what other people are going to think, right? But pretty soon they got into the spirit of play, and they're kicking it, and they're running up against it, bouncing off of it, and falling down. Swear to God, that was really funny. They're trying to throw it at each other. They were having an absolute ball playing. No doubt in my mind, but that they were expressing both their inner child and the divine. C.K. Chesterton said, "The true object of all human life is play." So maybe rolling around with a giant ball or playing sports isn't your thing, right? Maybe your kind of play involves gardening, or painting, or going to movies or plays, or listening to music, or dancing, or going to garage sales, or playing slot machines. Actually, that isn't play, because I call it slot machine therapy. So anyway, it's a different talk for another time. The point is, the form of the play doesn't matter. What matters is that we allow ourselves to do it, and to do it without guilt or remorse. Let me tell you what I mean. If you go out this afternoon to play and you're like, Dr. Pat said we're supposed to play because it's supposed to be good for us. Kind of defeating the purpose, okay? Because then it becomes an obligation, becomes another to-do. And just as resentment and anger stops up the flow, so does guilt and remorse and obligation. So, you don't have to raise your hands. I suspect that there are people here for which play is difficult to do. So, and the person who just laughed is one of them. So here are a few little tips, a couple of easy things to do to get your play juices flowing, okay? Here's one of them. Practice play by doing things at the spur of the moment. You know when you're driving down and you see a bunch of guys playing with a big old giant ball? and you say, I always wanted to do that, or gee, that sounds like fun, or I think I'll try it sometime, do that. Do that thing. Don't schedule it. Don't plan it when there's nothing else that needs to be done. When the opportunity presents itself to play, play. Yes? Yes. This is especially important for those of us who overschedule our time so there's very little wiggle room. And I know a lot of parents, that's the issue for you. But okay, they're kids. Play with them. Okay, right? Learning to play spontaneously opens up the channels of creativity and energy far beyond that rigid schedule of I've got to get the kids here and I've got to do this and that type of thing. So play spontaneously. The next one is take time out to experiment, to try on different parts, so to speak. This may be the time when it's necessary to cease caring what other people think. Because let's face it, if we're trying something new for the first time, chances are we're not going to be very good at it. For instance, you all know I love to do Zumba, right? Zumba is kind of a Latin, hip-hop, belly dancing sort of exercise thing, okay? Let's face it, this body is not designed for any of those kinds of dancing, right? So when I first went, I looked pretty silly. You know, all these belly dance moves and stuff. But you know what? It was really fun. It was really fun, and I kept going back because I was having a ball. And believe it or not, I'm actually pretty good at it now. But it's still play for me. I gotta get my fan on because I got so excited. And you can watch my dress. Is it doing it? Yeah. Okay. Here's the last one, and I just illustrated it, right? Laugh heartily at jokes and situations and yourself. Yes? Yes? Find humor in yourself. This is an example of when we start to take ourselves too seriously and it doesn't serve us. Because you know as well as I do, study after study after study have told us that laughter heals the body. It heals the mind. It heals the soul. Think about the last time you had a belly laugh. You know the one I'm talking about, where you have to sit down because your knees are getting weak because you're laughing so hard, you can't catch your breath. Often it's in inappropriate places. But remember how good you felt after you did it? That's because we have endorphins that get released when we laugh. Ladies and gentlemen, I just found this out. Endorphins are natural opiates. I'm serious. So when you laugh, you're like taking drugs. They release pain and depression and stress. It increases energy and immunity and heart health and zest and vitality. And play, pure, unabandoned play, promotes the laughter and the joy and the sense of well-being. I love this quote by George Bernard Shaw. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. So now that you know the importance of this, then what are we waiting for? Oh no.